everyone. All right, I'd like to first invite the panel to join me on stage. First is, who's gonna, and you're gonna sit right here, Carolyn Lim, Senior Manager Corporate Communications with Musim. Gladys Morales Guevara, the Global Head of Innovation for the United Nations International Fund for Agricultural Development. Professor Sang-Ho Yun, Director of the Remote Sensing Lab at the Earth Observatory of Singapore at NTU. And then Yip Shu Hung, the Head of Asia Digital Strategy for MUFG. We're doing a strict male-female split on the panel. I know. Okay, quick poll. How many of you have heard of the EU deforestation regulation? Just raise your hand. Raise your hand high. Okay. Now, keep them up, keep them up. How many of you know that the EUDR implementation was just delayed for 1 year? Okay. Now, keep your hands up. How many of you think that the delay is a good thing? Okay, okay. So there is some familiarity in the audience. Okay, so for those of you who had your hands down, the EU deforestation regulation was passed last year, June, with an implementation date of 31st December this year. And the goal of the EUDR was to ensure that products which support deforestation basically don't enter the European Union. So it requires traceability and basically product verification for anything coming into the EU in certain product categories, including palm oil and rubber and so on. And this year in October, the EU decided to postpone the implementation of the EUDR, which was a highly controversial decision, lined up on two sides. We had on one side big food companies like Nestle, Mars, Unilever, actually wanting to have the regulation implemented as scheduled because they had invested in built systems to verify their products. They had strange bedfellows with Rainforest Action Network, which also wanted the regulation to be implemented on schedule. Lined up on the other side were countries like Brazil, Malaysia, Indonesia, and the USA, though for different reasons. So one of the key issues for the opponents of EUDR was that it was too difficult to assess the level of deforestation or not in the supply chain, and that the ones who were most severely impacted were actually the small and medium-sized enterprises who are supplying a lot of the large food and industrials. So this is the issue, is how do you actually ascertain that deforestation is taking place? And so that's why we have this panel, because we have new technologies today which are supposed to address that question with the certainty that will allow financiers to actually get in and finance the right products. So basically, to kick this off, I'd like to actually just go around the panel and ask them, what is your connection to the palm oil industry, and what is your view on whether technology can actually give us the certainty that will allow regulations such as EUDR, and by the way, that's not the only one, but will allow regulation like that to raise the level of sustainability in the supply chain. So first, I'd like to go to Gladys. Basically, tell us a bit of what you do, and then also your connection to the palm oil case study.
Pamela, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone for joining us for this last panel of the day. I can imagine that most of you must be very tired. So my name is Gladys Morales. I lead the innovation team at the International Fund for Agricultural Development. For those of you that don't know IFAD, we are both a United Nations agency and an international financial institution. And we laser focus on improving the lives of small-scale farmers. Since 1978, we have been providing financing through concessional loans and grants for more than $24 billion in more than 92 countries. And today, over 78 million people are benefiting from those investments. In particular, in the case, if you want me to address already the issue that we have at hand, the problem statement that we have at the moment is that although the regulation aims to achieve significant improvements in deforestation so that it doesn't happen as it has been happening, the issue that we have is how do we equip small-scale farmers with the tools so they can be compliant, and not only compliant, but to be able to prove that they're compliant. Because it's one thing is for the big agri-tech companies to prove the compliance with the deforestation regulation, and it's very, very different when you tell a small-scale farmer or cooperatives of small-scale farmers that they have to be compliant. Because for that to happen, you have to have a combination of geospatial information, AI, and blockchain technologies to be able to have verifiable credentials. And that's the challenge that we have. Until today, we do not have an operational solution that is affordable and accessible to small-scale farmers. So that's where the problem is. And then maybe later I can address how we are also supporting and investing in the oil palm industry for standardization and harmonization also with environmental and social standards.
Okay, thank you. Going to you, Sang-Ho, tell us about the technology which could actually address the problem that Gladys has laid out, and also the problem for the whole industry.
Thank you, Pamela. My name is Sang-Ho Yoon. I'm originally from Korea, born and raised in Korea, and moved to California, lived in 21 years in California, and working for NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory for 14 years before I moved to Singapore 3 years ago. Now I'm a director of Remote Sensing Lab at the Earth Observatory of Singapore, as well as Associate Professor of Asian School of the Environment and the School of Electrical and Electronic Engineering at Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. First, I would like to gauge the level of familiarity of the audience. If I may, please show of your hand, how many of you are familiar with satellites? Satellites. Okay, thank you, thank you. How many of you are familiar with synthetic aperture radar? Oh, thank you. 2 of you. So my expertise is synthetic aperture radar. It's basically imaging radar that the signal penetrates cloud, signal penetrates rain, signal penetrates fog, fire smoke, and even the volcanic plume. Basically, this radar signals penetrate everything in the air. It's the same signal that your cell phone use, and you're not worried if it's rainy day like right now. You're not worried that your phone would not work because it engaged microwave. It works all the time. So this satellite can see everything that's happening on the Earth's surface regardless of weather condition. Also, this satellite transmits its own signal, so it carries its own illumination source. So you don't have to wait for the sun to come up. So you can image the Earth day and night and all weather condition. And what's amazing is that it has a capability to measure the ground ups and downs with a precision of centimeter or even millimeter per year from 800 kilometers away. Even if you're standing right there, you cannot measure the ground motion with millimeter precision, but we can do it. Day and night, all weather. And that crazy precision also can be translated to crazy sensitivity of change detection. So my team is working to produce maps that show which buildings are damaged and which parts are being flooded. For example, we delivered our map of the recent Valencia, Spain flood event. Before that, on 10th of November, 10th of October, there was a Hurricane Milton hitting the Florida. We supported that. A year ago, on February 6, 2023, there was a massive earthquake in Turkey, and that killed a lot of people. We supported that by producing a map that showed which buildings are damaged, covering 204,000 square kilometers. This is the size, this is 280 times the size of Singapore. We covered that area cloud-free within 10 days. And United Nations World Food Program used our map. And they found our map the most useful. After comparing with the maps generated by MIT, Google, Microsoft, UC Berkeley, Defense Innovation Unit, they found our map the most useful, most accurate.
Sang Ho,
Yeah.
come to palm oil.
Yes, thank you. So our expertise is change detection, and palm oil, palm tree change detection is an easy target. So I wanna say that EUDR is deforestation mapping and monitoring, an easy target for radar's point of view. And there's a new satellite launched July 1st by Japanese Space Agency. Another satellite NASA will launch early next year, which will produce 85 terabytes of data every day. That's like 85 laptops, MacBook Air every day worth of storage. So there's no shortage of observation and data. It's just that how we use it and how we communicate it and how we work together to make an impact coming from that radar observations from space. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. Actually, I'd like to turn to Carolyn to address how we are using the data and what we are doing with it.
Hi, I'm Carolyn. So I work for Musim. Musim is one of the world's largest palm oil producer, but with our major operational base in Indonesia. So we run we run Indonesia's largest independent smallholder program. We also have an existing project to work on smallholders and with MUFG. So echoing what the prof said, okay, so now in 2014, Musim has a no deforestation, no peat, and no exploitation policy. We went back to the, and when we had that policy in 2014, we asked ourselves, right, where is deforestation taking place? Who are the actors involved? How many of my suppliers do I have? And trying to keep stock. So what we learned over the years is that we have about 600 mills that supply to our refineries globally. We operate in 13 countries. Because this is a trading commodity business, in a given day, the supply to the mill may come from different suppliers, even in a given year. So that's what we know. We know about 600. In the universe of mills in the world, it's about 2,000. So Musim must procure about 25% of the global palm oil mills. That we know. Now, what we also know is that, as what the prof has likely pointed out, we also know the satellite imagery, and we know somehow in almost, not almost real time, sometimes we don't have the kind of scientific expertise to have an almost real time understanding. We will usually have a quarterly understanding of the deforestation that's taking place. But what we don't know is the concession boundary on the ground. Even today in Indonesia, the Indonesian government do not have a unified set of concession boundary. In other words, I may have a static knowledge of deforestation. I do not know who the culprits on the ground. Now, throw that into the mix. When the supply of the fruits move from the plantations to the mills and to the refineries, there can be many dealers in place. So the fruits can change hands multiple times. So we don't really know the chain of custody from the plantation to the mills. But we know where deforestation takes place. What is needed, so over the years, the industry invested a lot of effort in doing, for example, site verification. Today, the Musimas team is about 150 people sustainability, in the sustainability team. It's a huge team if you speak to any sustainability people, especially maybe for the beauty industry, it's only like 10, 15. Yeah, so we have invested a lot of people doing the ground truthing to know who are the culprits. But that's only part of the puzzle. We may have a set of concession data of the large corporate companies, but we do not know the small and medium actors, especially not the smallholders. So years ago, we worked with MUFG in 2021 to develop an app for traceability. Okay, so just a background to EUDR. Indonesia today does not consider it a sovereign right not to give out geolocation out to outsiders, especially not the EU. So, Indonesia is a huge country and a proud country at large. So they do not think that it is the business of EU to intervene in the local political and sovereign rights of a country to know its own concession data. Yeah, so this is the background that companies like us operate in, and this is why, now, if you ask me about the question on EUDR, actually for a company like a palm oil company like us, we are actually disappointed that it's not implemented because we have spent a lot of effort to do the first mover in investing in apps, for example, with MUFG, so working with smallholders is a tricky issue. Okay, most of the smallholders in Indonesia today do not have the